Let's check out this tweet here from Kevin Kurtz of The Athletic. Talking about Kevin Kurtz, the Sharks writer. Says this about Patrick Marleau. Now, Marleau, as we're all aware, is trying to set the record in the most games played. I wouldn't actively maybe look for a trade, but if it does happen or it does come, or a team wants me, that's something you have to seriously consider. Very veiled way of Patrick Marleau saying, oh, if it has to happen, okay, fine. I'm not looking for it necessarily. Had a great time here in San Jose. Long duration of his career, but interesting thought here is the trade deadline is approaching April 12th, and that's where we continue. Dave Reed, Brian Lawton, Adnan Virk, we continue. More of the Flyers and Devils, by the way, in just a second. But as you look at this trade deadline, April 12th once again, and some are saying maybe not as many moves, condensed schedule, tough to make moves. But let's just project here.
Draft, quarantining, we could go on.
Right, there's been lots of issues.
That means we'll have an explosion.
Exactly. Sure. 27 trades within the first 6 hours. But let's start first with the Columbus Blue Jackets, Reader, which is a team you think could be that fourth and final playoff team in their division. You look at Columbus, go, okay, who's a guy that can make a good impact on this team? Who would you say?
Interestingly, 2 weeks ago we were talking about them trading players. Now I'm talking about them possibly acquiring players. Well, you've got to look down the middle when you're talking Columbus. Right. And one of the best players out there is with the Buffalo Sabres, and Eric Staal. He's won a Stanley Cup. He's got great pedigree. He's a true professional. He can fit in offensively. He can run a power play. He can kill penalties, take face-offs. So for me, I think it would be a great fit. Jarmo Kekalainen's already come out and indicated that, yes, we're looking to shore up the middle. A situation when Pierre-Luc Dubois was moved for Patrik Laine. This could be a perfect fit for a team that is starting to gain some traction. And again, this is a team that, hey, one player could be the difference between that one goal needed in a game, that one offensive player. So for me, I think it'd be a great fit to put and the work ethic of Eric Staal fits right in with John Tortorella's work ethic. And so I think that's a very good fit. And if it happened, it wouldn't surprise me if it happened.
All right, next up, as we look at the Columbus, you mentioned Eric Staal. How about the Dallas Stars, a team that you're clearly bullish on here lots? Who's the guy that you think, you know what, this would lift this team up?
You know what, for me, there's one guy I think that could change their fortunes. He is a UFA. He's going to be a rental player, but he's a big-time player, and he hasn't played up to par for what we're used to, his standards. And that, of course, would be Taylor Hall. Now, you may say, geez, he hasn't really rung the bell the way he normally does. The goals haven't come. But I have a theory on two players. One of them was Mika Zibanejad, and the other is Taylor Hall. Both had COVID. Both, I felt, really lost some leg strength and weren't themselves for long stretches. I feel like Zibanejad is out of that now. If you've watched his game lately, he's flying. Are you willing to do the homework, to get and watch every single minute on Taylor Hall and see if you can see any of that progression to make that bet? He is a guy, in my opinion, that would change single-handedly the fortunes for the Dallas Stars, a team that has fielded on some nights, Reader, 4, 5, 6 players that even the Hockey News has to go extra deep just to find them.
Love the Hockey News.
With the way the season has played out this year, as many games, more injuries, COVID, all these other distractions, taxi squads, Dallas is hurting up front with their injuries. No Roope Hintz, no Tyler Seguin, no Radulov, no Faksa. I mean, we could just keep going on and on and on. They need some help desperately up front.
I like that. Tyler Seguin, Tyler.
Yes, there you go. Right there draft. Together.
Would that be together? Put them together, 1-2.
United.
There you go.
And it feels so good. That
Last
would
time
be
they were
good
together
for
was the draft when they went 1-2. Was who do you take? Tyler. Yeah,
right, that was the big debate.
Yeah.
Well, Taylor
Hall, see that. That would be a good fit.
Yeah.
Taylor Hall needs a jump start. There's no question. It hasn't worked in Buffalo. Like I said, he's a UFA, so you're playing for a contract. If he could step it up for them, that would certainly help his suitors moving forward. Boston Bruins now. Potential pickup for a team, fourth right now in the division.
Well, when I look at the Bruins, we continue to talk about the lack of depth scoring and that we need more scoring, consistent scoring on second, third line. And a guy like Kyle Palmieri, to me, would be a perfect fit with the Boston Bruins. Palmieri can still score goals, and that boost in the arm for Palmieri to be put in the Boston Bruins, a team that is, has got great pedigree, great playoff history, and for the Boston Bruins, you're putting a 30-goal scorer in your lineup who really can still score goals. It's not as though Kyle Palmieri hasn't scored goals recently. So for me, the depth scoring, you couldn't find a better player than Kyle Palmieri, and I think that would be a great fit. Plus, he plays the way the Bruins play. He's a 200-foot player. He can kill penalties. He can play power play, and he's very good outside the dots working the corners. So I think that would be a good fit. Now, not just the Boston Bruins. I think you could put Kyle Palmieri on plenty of teams. But you asked me for the Boston Bruins, and I think it would be something that Don Sweeney would be very interested in.
All right, we go over to the North Division. So the Calgary Flames right now, they're battling. They made their big move, bringing in Daryl Sutter. You bring in a new coach, disciplinary.
Yes.
He's had success before. But as far as a player that could do, what do you think Calgary could do? Impact guy.
Well, I think that Calgary did make their big move in terms of bringing in Daryl Sutter. But I do think there's going to be a little bit of tweaking to get the roster that maybe fits his eye a little bit more. And one thing that I've noticed that I believe has really hurt them is their third pair. But it's not just the third pair. It's maybe to take a little bit of pressure off for Giordano. It's a lot of minutes for him. If they could do that somehow and find a guy, I think that could really elevate their fortunes. Who could that guy be? I had two players in mind. I went with Ryan Murray. Why? Because I think coming from, even though he's in New Jersey this year, he had played in Columbus for a very long time, and he played for John Tortorella, and I think he'd be a little bit more in sync with where a guy like Daryl Sutter's coming from.
Yeah.
And he'd know what's expected of him, and he would be a really good fit. He definitely could strengthen that third pair. You got Valimaki and Nestorov in that pair, and just a little bit of elevation. Sometimes it's just the little things that can make the biggest difference. A secondary target who I don't think will be available, but he may be because he's UFA also, like Ryan Murray, is David Savard. The question is, Columbus would have to slip out of contention to do that. They may still consider it if you were willing to sweeten the pot enough, because it doesn't look like he's going to be re-signed there. Okay, one more team to focus on, the Winnipeg Jets. So right now, Reader, Edmonton and Toronto, neck and neck for the top spot. Winnipeg right now is third. As far as a guy that could give them a boost, who would it be?
Well, Lots, I'm going to take your defenseman, but I'm going to switch it up a little bit because Winnipeg can use defense. They're one of the deepest teams up front. They've got fantastic goaltending with Connor Hellebuck.
Who you got?
For me, I'm thinking being a Canadian team and with the COVID protocol, they may want to get the player in quicker because you've got to get in the playoffs. True. You've got to hold your playoff spot. And if that 2-week protocol that you're
why can't we just find a truck driver?
Yeah. You might be able to do that and slide someone in. I don't know.
I've got some cargo here. It's an NHL player. Don't worry about it.
Claire Alexander was a milkman. He used to drive a truck. He stepped right in and played for the Leafs way back. Remember Claire Alexander. And he was a right-shot defenseman. And he had a hammer of a shot. Anyhow,
the milkman
we're regressing here. We're regressing. I'm looking at Alex Edler. Here's a player that can play in all situations, good veteran player, and he can maybe take some of the time that Neil Pionk and Josh Morrissey, a couple young defensemen, are playing some heavy minutes. Forbert's in there as well. You've got Nathan Beaulieu when he's in the lineup. This is a team that needs experience, needs veteran presence on the back end.
He will hold them back.
For me, that would be...
If it doesn't happen for them, it'll be because of their D, don't you think?
Absolutely. That's it. Yeah. That's it exactly.
Good goaltending.
Yep.
Great forwards.
And they've got to find some experience. And it's difficult. There are a lot of players who, they'd be great to bring them in, but I really do think that the Canadian teams are going to hesitate, especially the teams that are battling for a playoff spot. If Calgary picks it up, and it was a huge loss to Ottawa in last night's game, it was a huge 2 points that they missed on, that if Winnipeg feels at all that they're threatened, and you can't wait 2 weeks for a player to come in, because those 2 weeks you could lose 4 games. You might only go 500. And those 2 points that you lost out on with an extra player. So that's why I think it's going to be within the Canadian division and the North Division. And that could pose all sorts of problems. I know a guy like Eric Goodbranson might fit well. He's in Ottawa, but I don't see Ottawa.
Tough for him to play at that speed, I think.
It is, but he would definitely help in the lower parts, and he would help in the physical part on the back end, which Winnipeg is missing the physical presence on the back end. Not that Edler's physical, but he's tall enough and big enough, and he can play in that role. So it's interesting when you're looking at who the Canadian teams are going to try to grab.
A lot tougher for them, though, to make a deal.
Much tougher.
It's just the way it is.
Much tougher.
The quarantine changes the equation for them. With the amount of time that you're down and how much time is left, it's pretty penal.
Yeah. And Hellebuck is a hell of a goaltender. So maybe they say, you know what, he can shore up a lot of deficiencies from the defense, but obviously a little defense goes a long way.